What is up? Welcome back to Drummers on Drumming, a podcast powered by Big Fat Snare Drum. Today we have another installment of the Drum Panel, and it features me, Ben Hilsinger, Brendan Buckley, who's the drummer for Shakira, Farrell, Morrissey, and more, and also one of my closest friends, Gunnar Olsen of Puscifer, Mother Feather, Big Data, and also so much more. We dig into arena reality versus practice room habits, charting versus memory, and how to respect the composition before putting your stamp on it, the Shakira machine, and why clarity and projection beat busy parts when you're playing to the back row. We also talk deep dives versus wider listening, Bowie's Berlin era, and that one time Brendan's electrician turned out to be one of my favorite drummers. And I gather one of Brendan's as well. So it's got it all: practical advice, music history, and plenty of stories and takeaways from working drummers today. So cheers, and we get right into it. Oh yeah, I missed this. Brendan invited me and Gunnar, because Gunnar's in town working on some Puscifer stuff, to the Shakira SoFi show. And so we went and saw him last Monday. Brendan absolutely killed it. So did Keith Harris, who played for Black Eyed Peas, who opened up for Shakira. So this conversation is 2 days after we just saw him play in front of 50,000 people, and we just hop right into the conversation pertaining to that right away. So enjoy the chat. I love you. I really do. And love you. First of all, dude, thanks for getting us into the show, man. That was so fun.
Oh, it was my pleasure to have you guys there.
I think it's worth going to see those things if you can, because you learn so much, like what really matters, like watching you at, what's the drummer for Black Eyed Peas' name?
That's Keith Harris.
Yeah. He was killer too. And it was just, I was saying to Ben, you spend so much time thinking about the minutia of chops and all this stuff you need to have for a gig. And when you're playing a situation that big, you could be doing all this, but most of it will get lost in the mix. It just goes to show like what really matters, like kick snare, crashes, maybe a tom fill. The other stuff, like I'm sure like really does matter to get the gig, but it's just so funny how much you can actually hear at a gig that big. So It's almost like that's what really matters, is like just fucking playing the kick and snare and the crashes at the right points. I don't know. I mean, I'm belittling it a little bit. It's very interesting to hear and remind yourself of like all those ghost notes that you're freaking out about. They're not, no one's even going to hear them half the time.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good point you brought up, because I think over the years I've learned a lot from front house engineers about projection. Like what is actually going to project to the back row? What's going to give an impact? And
Yes.
Like you said, your term, the little minutia, that might not transfer to the back of a stadium or back of an arena. What will? An awesome kick sound, an awesome snare sound, a great pattern, a really big fill that has some space in it. And yeah, for me, it's just clarity and projection are what you're going for. Yeah, it's different than if you're playing in some little bar and doing some live drum and bass gig where all the little notes are what really makes a difference. It's the proximity. When you're up that close, that's really interesting. And when you're far away, something else is interesting.
What's that kit, Brendan? I'm curious what the kit was.
That is a DW stainless steel that I got in 2018, I think. I got that kit. Yeah, it sounds great. It's funny, my friend Steven Vega from DW hit me up when they first invented those, and he said, hey man, you want to try a stainless steel kit on your next tour? And I'm thinking that 70s Bonham one, the Ludwig one. Yeah. And I'm like, man, I really don't see that working, but I appreciate the offer. He goes, I guarantee it doesn't sound anything like that one. You should really try it. I think you would dig it. So I tried it out, and I'm like, wow, this thing sounds really good, really consistent. And I said, well, I'll run it by the engineers and see if they like it. So I brought it in, and they loved it. So I'm like, okay, great. That's the end. And it's a heavy drum set, though. So I try to always use it for one tour and then put it in my storage. And then the next tour, they're like, can you bring that stainless steel kit out on the next tour? I'm like, all right. So I used it on a Shakira tour, a Farrell tour, a Morrissey tour, and then back on this next Shakira tour, 4 tours in a row, same kit. So
wow.
I keep on trying to get away from it, and I keep on bringing me back in.
And now we're talking about it. Now it's part of your lore. Well, speaking of gear, what gear throughout musical history would you like to have in your possession?
So this is the classic question that I've listened to a lot of these podcast episodes. They're great. Let me just say that first.
Thank you.
Love the rapport. It's like a little clubhouse where I feel like I'm getting to hang out and listen to you guys chat for a while. It's great.
Welcome, dude. Welcome to the clubhouse.
Oh, thanks for having me. It's to the point where it's kind of weird where I'll be walking around like on tour, walking around with the podcast going on in my headphones, and I almost want to chime in at times. I'm like, oh, that's a good point.
You can call me anytime and I'll put you on.
I'm like, oh, that's a great point they're making. But so anyway, but I remember you bringing up this question, and it makes me think of there's different ways to answer this question. Like you can say, do I want a piece of gear from history that I want to play? Mm-hmm. Like, oh, I love the sound of this snare. I love this ride or this hi-hat. Or like something from my youth. I have sentimental value over this thing that I used to watch a hero of mine play. Mm-hmm. Or a third option would be like, what's the resale value? Like some historic kit that would be amazing to own. And like, so if I were to answer in different ways, I would say a sentimental thing would probably be something like Brendan Canty from Fugazi used to have this kind of Liberty Bell that he had on his drum set. He would whack like the way another guy would whack an ice bell or a clapper or something. That would be so cool to have. Or like the Octobans that Stuart Copeland used in the Synchronicity tour. The Rototom kit that Alex Van Halen had for 1984. These are all things from my youth. So sonically, like an instrument that I love, there's the ride cymbal from Tony Williams' ride cymbal from Four and More. I think I've heard that being mentioned before. That's just the perfect jazz ride. Smoky with articulation. Mm-hmm. There's these greenish brown hi-hats that Gad used on those DCI videotapes from the 80s, In Session and Up Close. Those instructional videotapes, that hi-hat that he had forever is incredible. Everyone talks about the Terminator, Tama Bell Brass. That's a good one.
Yeah, I did a product demo for Loughton Audio, and we used the Black Album kit at One-on-One where they did the Black Album. I invited Ben and a few of our friends to come over, and we all got to play on like that kit. I think it's the second one. It's the Terminator 2. The Terminator 1, I think, is on Nevermind and some Rage album. And the 2 is on Black Album and some other millions of records.
Yeah. And do you have any idea if the kit you were playing was tuned exactly like they tuned it on the Black Album?
No, I mean, they basically brought it. They're like, here you go. And
figure it out.
I mean, Ross, the drum doctor, he tuned them up. And then they're like, how do you want to set them up? And I was like, we have to kind of set it up like Lars. Like, I don't play double kick. I don't really know how to play a kit this big, but I was like, we got to at least kind of try, or else like the trolls will just destroy you even more than they probably already did. He tuned it up pretty quickly, and it just like, it was one of those things when I hit the snare, it honestly didn't, it was like cool. It was like a great snare. And then it was really one of those things like going in, Daryl Thorpe was engineering. So you had a world-class engineer, great drum tech, and you had that room that it was recorded in. You go in the control room and, you're like, oh, I find that some snares sometimes you're at a studio and they're like, oh, this drum gets used on all these records, and you hit it and it sounds like, you're like, this sounds awful, but there's just something about the way it records. And I'm sure that snare would be great in any. My point was, I didn't hit it and was like, I need the snare. It was really a combination of the way it's recorded and everyone knowing what's going to work.
Yeah, I've said that like in the past, like certain drums or cymbals, they're just mic friendly. You don't you sit down, you play them, they don't feel special to you, but they really record well for some reason. I found certain Gretches are that way, certain Yamahas from the 80s are that way, certain snare drums are that way, and it doesn't blow you away at first, but then you go into the other room and you listen, you're like, oh my God, I sound incredible. It must be the drum.
Well, we've quantized them, EQ'd them, compressed them. Called another drummer.
Exactly.
This is the other, Well, do you think that the Terminator in a zoom out is top 3 most popular physical drums of all time?
As a single drum, I think it has notoriety because it has a nickname. Everyone talks about like the classic Bell brasses.
Sure,
I have one, but it doesn't have a nickname. Maybe if I had a nickname, give it a nickname.
You haven't named your bell brass? Come on.
I haven't yet. Lucille, I haven't yet.
The next time you're on, I want you to have named it.
We should name all of our drums and introduce them like it's like a family gathering.
Yeah.
This is Ernest. And like
Some of my drums are definitely the weird uncle. I know, my 10-inch Rogers Tom.
I mean, I still think that Ludwig metal drums are the most useful, most flexible, and most useful drums that you can have. So if you have to buy one snare drum, a Ludwig metal snare is like, it's almost foolproof. But there's not one that I can think of. Oh, there's the so-and-so acrylite. I mean, there's just an acrylite. There's not one that jumps out at me.
I mean, the other one, speaking of Ludwig, I think it would be maybe the, it'd be Ringo's kit or Zeppelin's kit, like the orange, the amber kit. My ADHD brain's like, what other famous drums? And so I was like, oh, that's cool. I've been able to play one of the most famous drums of all time. But
we're joking about resale value, but a collector's item kit would be that Ed Sullivan Black Oyster Ringo kit would be incredible. Sure. Or the amber Vista Light Song Remains the Same kind of kit. Or another one I think is pretty amazing is that Neil Peart Exit Stage Left Rosewood Tama that he had. That would be amazing to have. Not only amazing to have, but like tuned exactly the way he tuned it, and like you just have it as a museum piece in your living room or something. Don't even breathe on it. Just have it there.
Don't even look at it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Has your answer changed at all, Gunnar?
I feel like I always talk about Nirvana and Dave Grohl just because it was such a big thing for me. But like that red kit he uses in the Smells Like Teen Spirit video, it would just be cool to like have that set up exactly the way it's set up in the video. I bet it was absolute trash. I bet they bought it on the drive to the shoot at a pawn shop, or maybe it was given to them by Tama. Maybe I'm wrong, but I just always thought, when you're younger, you don't understand things, and I just remember thinking like, how is he getting that huge sound with that drum? Like.
Because obviously this is a live recording from that
I
gymnasium.
know, it's just like, it's so dumb.
Well, me and Gunnar at the show, we were thinking with a gig like Shakira, when it comes to subs and if something happens, there's so much on the line, how does that whole world work with a backup plan?
It's interesting you should ask that. There is no backup plan. I don't have a drum sub per se. I've been doing that gig for 27 years now, and I'm just expected to be there whenever we go on tour. It's from like, they give me a tour calendar from here to here, you have to do all the dates. And I'm like, cool, gladly. I think there are, exceptions that are like, it's only to be human. Like if you have a death in the family or something, we would figure it out.
Yeah.
But there have been rare occasions where a bassist had to leave because a family member passed away, and we called someone else and taught him the set in 48 hours and he filled in. So we've had a few of those moments. I've only subbed out, I think, 2 shows since I started, and those were both like one-song television appearances that they sprung on me like the day before. I was on the other side of the globe, and they're like, hey, she's playing Fallon tomorrow. We need you to be in New York. I'm like, oh, I can't make it. So I sent a friend to fill in for one song. That's not hard. But for a tour, it would be hard to send a sub that, on a day's notice. So I actually only this month contacted 2 of my friends, and just to be safe, I said, hey man, do you mind if I send you like a show tape and you just learn the set and I'll pay you, and just have it on the back burner in case I ever need you. So that's it. But yeah, I don't really have a plan.
But that was something you thought to do. They weren't like, hey, you need a sub, or was it a little of, you just know the organization well enough that you think, hey, this would be good to have, they would appreciate it?
It was a little bit of this. So on this tour, we have 12 dancers, and we haven't had that many dancers ever in the past. So we have a lot of dancers. So there were a few instances where there was either a visa problem or someone twisted their ankle and they had to get a sub to come out. So we would rehearse the whole show with a sub, and they slay it. They do a great job. And then I think somewhere along the line, someone said, do you guys have subs like the dancers do? We're like, nope.
Yeah.
So then they were like, maybe we should look into that. So I talked to the MD and the tour manager, and I said, hey, I can easily get a couple friends on hold, but we should pay them to learn the set. I don't think we should just say, hey, do all this work and sit around. Let's give them a chunk of money just to chart everything out, and then just, never get called.
Hopefully.
It's a good gig.
Yeah.
It's a great gig.
Yeah.
Last drum panel, Joe Lano asked me and Eric about if someone called you and said, you have to learn a 30-song set in, let's say 2 days, let's up the stakes. Would you guys say yes immediately and then figure it out? Or are you at the point where you're like, that's just not worth, the stress isn't there, why do that?
Well, for me, I don't know about Gunnar, but for me, I love that. I love that challenge. That's right in my wheelhouse. I love when a producer or musical director or even a drummer says, dude, can you cover for me on Friday? I'm like, okay, what does it entail? And they tell me, I'm like, yep, I'll do it. And then it's like charting it out on the airplane on the way to the dress rehearsal. I kind of love that. It's really exciting for me and challenging. I wish I did that even more. I enjoy that experience.
How would you actually execute that?
I think it would depend on the gig and depend on the complexity of the songs, you know, what language the songs are in. Everything would come into factors, right? And I think in the end, they're in trouble. The tour's in trouble. They need a drummer, and they need a show to happen on a certain day. So whatever it takes to make that show happen. If it means that I have to have a music stand on stage and play like I'm reading in a high school big band, so be it. But I would not like to do that if I didn't have to. I would love to have everything memorized. So I have different levels of memorization. So there would be like, maybe I memorized the entire set front to back. I got it. That's the goal.
Sure.
Maybe that's not possible. So the second thing you can do is have a set list. And next to every song, you have like the cliff notes of every song. Like, this is the one that does this. This is the one that has a, double time section. This is the one that has a 2/4 bar. So you just know, like, I know how this song goes, but there's one thing that you might mess up. So I write it next to the song.
Little anchors. Yeah.
Little anchors. Yeah. That's the next thing. And the third thing is if the songs are just, they all sound the same. There's like 16 power ballads that are all slightly different. You're like, okay, I can't keep track of this in 24 hours notice. So I'm going to put little charts, like you said, either on the floor or not too visible, but somewhere so I can kind of reference it from time to time and get through the songs. I don't think anyone's going to judge you because you had to read your way through a set that you'd never rehearsed before. I think it's okay. Yeah.
What about you, Gunnar? I mean, I'm assuming we're all professionals. We would say yes and figure it out. But I mean, what's your mindset with that?
It would definitely, I've definitely done it. I've gotten a call like, hey, our drummer's flight is supposed to like land in an hour, but he still hasn't taken off. We're playing Summer Stage tonight. Can you learn 8 songs just in case? And then getting the text like 2 hours later, okay, he's fine. Like he made it, but like,
wow,
it was kind of like, okay, I'm going to start listening to stuff, but like, give me like, let me know when I really need to like know it by. Cause I had it was like 8 hours away. And then, I've had a few like just small gigs that I've done last minute, and I never make charts, but for those I made little, just like Brendan said, like maybe draw out the pattern of the beat. A thing I do if it's a gig where it's songs I don't know really well, I will give myself references to what the beat sounds like. So like if I know I'm starting the song and it's like a beat like Running Down a Dream by Tom Petty, it's maybe sometimes I'll write that in parentheses. So at least like if I count off the song, I at least have an idea like what's the vibe, because I more likely know that song off the top of my head than you're probably counting in a song that you're kind of like, how does this go? And then like, oh yeah, I kind of remember this. I find for gigs like that too, I'm like, find the bass player, find a guitarist, be like, hey man, can you maybe count this off for me? Or like, that's when you're really utilizing your ears, your brain. It's going to be a really singular experience for everyone there because they know you're doing your best. So everyone, like you said, like if you maybe showed up to a gig knowing the song's cold, like you might make eye contact with like the bass player twice because maybe you guys just don't know each other and just, you're feeling it. But I feel like in those situations, everyone's really like, yeah, we got this. Like you go, and it ends up being a really cool experience.
That's when you make friends for life right there. Cause you go to battle together basically.
Yeah.
Have you ever had the bassist or musician on stage that is almost, they give you too many cues? They look at you too much.
Oh my God.
And they're actually distracting because they're leaning over your kit, like nodding and pointing their headstock at you. You're like, okay, I actually know the songs better than you think. You're creeping me out now.
Yes.
Well, I did a release party thing, and on one of the parts, the guitarist just goes crazy, and we agreed before that he's going to give a big half moon just nod, and he kept doing it in the middle of us. So we're like, we don't know what you're doing. So we're like building up. Oh no, we're still here. And it was, he just got so excited, but
that's not the cue.
I love all those types of things in music. I love when things kind of don't go right, or I like when there's communication breakdowns. I mean, it makes the set more exciting for me. If things are flawless, there's nothing to talk about.
Yeah, to that point, Brendan, I will say when you have that moment on stage, maybe there's one song where there's a little moment and everyone kind of realizes it, and then you get back on track. I feel like those moments really, it connects you. You walk off stage, you kind of like, oh, that was kind of crazy, right? You know, and hopefully it means it happened and you got through it. You know, if it happens and then the next night it happens again, and you don't, like, I've had it where then it happens the next night, and then it's just like, then it's a bummer. It's like, okay, like, that guy messed up last night, kind of screwed us all up, but we got through it. And then he did it again, and now I'm just pissed. You know, now I'm just like, you didn't.
You're pissed by night two. You're pissed by night two. Okay.
Yeah, you need an intervention by then. We need to have a meeting.
This episode is brought to you by Big Fat Snare Drum, specifically the Big Fat Snare Drum Bargain Bin. We're talking brand new heads that aren't scratched or dented. We just have too many, so get them for cheap. We've also dropped some new full coverage textile cloth designs, and our Pick 3 bundles are now live. It's an easy way to outfit your whole kit with many of our most popular heads. Just choose one of these 3 size sets, 10, 12, 14, 12, 14, 16, or 13, 14, 16. Go check out all of that at bigfatsnaredrum.com. Are you the MD on this show? Or did you mention it?
The guitarist, Tim Mitchell, is the official MD. I'm like his co-MD. I'm his right-hand man.
How much leeway do you have every night to kind of switch it up within the parameters that you're given of the song? Or is it pretty much the discipline is what makes that one fun?
That's a great question. I think you have to earn your leeway. So with the Shakira gig in particular, this might be for a lot of pop gigs, but for her gig specifically, you have to show up to the rehearsals knowing everything note for note. The studio versions, the new tour arrangements, which are different because it might be a medley or something else, the live versions you have to know. So I actually chart out everything and I have it there for reference. Like, oh, you're talking about the live version from 2011. I got that here too, you know, something like that.
Wow, okay.
So then I have all that ready to go, and then you rehearse it that way, and it's almost like you have to prove to her that you did the homework. And once she says, wow, you guys really, really checked out everything. It sounds great, guys. Then she kind of signs off on the band is good, green light. Then you have more leeway to start massaging the parts and personalizing them a little bit, making them your own. So I always kind of begin more literal, and then once we get to the shows and as the tour kind of evolves, I change things to make them more comfortable for me, or more musical, or, well, more musical in my opinion, I should say. And something that I think this would work better, or I'd rather do this. And I also save a few moments every night where I do things differently every night, mainly for the other guys on stage, because the keyboardist and guitarist and bassist, you know, we'll kind of zone out if we're just playing everything on autopilot. So I make sure I do different drum fills and different songs from time to time, so they're all awake and excited too. Like, oh, that was a cool one. And we all do that to each other. Like every now and then the guitarist does a different lick or the keyboardist does something else, and we all kind of give that nerdy musician smile at one another like yeah, I heard that. Really good.
Yeah.
But it can't be so far away that it's distracting to the artist. You know, it has to be within the realm of what we rehearsed, but you have the leeway to move it around a little bit if it's still musical.
With the Shakira gig, is there a hierarchy of where you would start to, I guess I'll word it this way. Is there a through line that you're like, this is kind of a non-negotiable, the foundation has to always be this, is like the kick drum, or is there some other thing? And then you kind of just start experimenting with other things outside of that? Does that question make sense?
You know, it's not that literal. I mean, I try to keep, okay, well, you saw that I play a lot of electronics. So I don't, once the electronic sounds are set, or the regular sounds are set, the acoustic sounds are set, I don't mess with those as much. Like, we spend a lot of time tweaking sounds until each song has a specific set of sounds that work for that song. And then I go through the set list and, you know, I change it up for each song. The patterns, no one kind of gives me dirty looks or, you know, the evil eye if I change the pattern ever so often. It's more like you have to get the sonic palette correct, and then you have to nail the patterns in the beginning. And then if you think, you know what, I don't think we have to go boom, pa, every time. I'm going to just do 1 and 3 for a little while, and then when we get to the pre-chorus, I'm going to do the double kick. No one's going to say, yo, what's going on?
Brendan, why don't you come over here for a second, bud?
Yeah, well, here's your plane ticket home. But I think like all the musicians, you have to earn that position, because if you don't show that you respect the album and the arrangements to begin with, like you're like, I'm just kind of do my own thing. No one, but that doesn't work on this gig. The person who shows up and says, I didn't really check out the recordings, I'm just kind of feeling my way through it. That's not going to work. They're gone immediately. You have to be the studious person who says, yeah, I checked it all out, and I have everything together. And then once you prove to them, the MD and Shakira and the producer and everyone, that, then like, okay, now you can kind of start, adding your own flair. That keeps it kind of fresh for everyone.
I think those are like important words for drummers. Ben and I were kind of talking about that. I think last time we talked, just like approaching like my parts when I joined Puscifer. It's like I started super verbatim, super literal. It's getting your body to do something that might not necessarily be the thing that is the most comfortable to you. And I think we all get to that point where like you can start to feel like yourself playing something that you wouldn't have thought of playing. And that's a really fun place to get to. It's challenging. It's really hard. And then what I find is on tour, like eventually certain things that would just kind of come to me a little more naturally start to happen as I'm playing the same songs. It's like, oh, like that fill has always felt a little awkward. I might just switch it up because it just feels a little bit better, things like that. But I think it's so important. I think just for all musicians, just like go in there really knowing it in a way that might not feel comfortable to you, but just to show that you respect everyone there and that you put the time in. And one of my biggest pet peeves is showing up to a rehearsal with new people and they're kind of learning it at rehearsal. Rehearsal is like where we tighten it up and we work on things. Like one thing to like pull out your phone and kind of like double, but like when you're like, I see people showing up and like they play the song and they're making chord changes at rehearsal. I'm just like, I was up last night till like 2 a.m. learning these songs by memory. The second I see that, I kind of Homer Simpson a bit back through the bush, just like, I don't know if I want to like engage with this person. Like maybe I take it too personally, but
I think it's funny. I've joked with some of my friends that I often hear people say, yeah, I really can't play the same thing twice. It's a common thing. People say, drummers say it. A lot of people, I kind of do my own thing. I'm like, okay, well, I respect that. But I think that'd be funny to say you get the gig with AC/DC playing guitar and you're going to play Back in Black. And you're like, I can't really play that riff the same way twice. I'm like, what are you talking about? That is the song. Yeah. It's like, you're not respecting the composition. And I think, like Gunnar said, it's a composition. And if you don't respect the parts, you're not respecting the composition, the producer, the artist. Of course, you can change it over time. You're like, what feels even better for me or what might work better? That's cool. But to say I'm not checking it out or I don't have the discipline to actually play the same 4 bars twice in a row, that's a little weird.
I like too that I went on tour with this band called The Palms like 2 months ago, and then now we're doing our headline tour next month, and so I'm reapproaching the songs again because after I'm done with the tour, I kind of step away from that music for a little bit, and now reapproaching them from now that I know the songs, I'm like, oh, I should go back to that original drum thing. That does sound better than what I'm doing. So it's fun to have this different perspective, new relationship every tour. With the songs.
I like that evolution, and looking back and saying, you know what, actually that idea was a little better than what I'm doing right now.
Yep.
And it goes to show you probably in that gig that your evolution was so gradual that no one else had a problem with it. No one else was like, Ben, you're kind of not playing anything right anymore. No, it still sounded good. It still sounded good.
Wait a second, nothing's right. Well, we've gone on so many tangents from the original question, which is I love. I knew we were only going to get through 2 of the questions I actually had written down. But another traditional question for a newish guest is if you could be a fly on the wall of any album, past or, and I'll even include this, future, a thing you might think might happen one day, what record would that be? And I'll go to Brendan.
I would say in the past, maybe the David Bowie Berlin trilogy, Low, Heroes and Lodger, those albums with Dennis Davis on drums and Brian Eno, Tony Visconti producing. I love that era of David Bowie. I read a lot about all the studio trickery and experimentation they did. I mean, I think Bowie actually went to Berlin with Eno and said, I want to make an album differently than I made it in the past. songwriting, recording. I don't care how it turns out. I just want it to be different than the traditional way of songwriting and recording. So it was a lot of, just coming up with things in the studio. All the drum sounds they experimented with, all the eventides on the drums. And
What do you mean by eventides?
oh, I read something once that they invented this new piece of gear called an eventide, like ultra harmonizer or something. It was this fancy rack mounted gear that was for effects, and I think it was Tony Visconti decided to put it on a snare drum and added all this weird like kind of sounds and things to the snare, and that was, but they kept their settings secret. Apparently, was what I read. They wouldn't share it with anyone. All these because there was a lot of knobs and you'd have to tweak with it forever, and then they would take a photo and never share it with anyone because it was their custom settings. There's that, and all these weird microphone techniques they did, and even overdub techniques they did. Robert Fripp played on a song, and Adrian Belew played guitar on some songs. And I just think that whole era just sounds cool. They coming up with lyrics by like cutting up newspapers and throwing it in a hat and just pulling out lines, and that's your lyrics. All these weird things. And and then there's one more album after that, Scary Monsters. So it was like 4 albums in a row that I think were that's my favorite period of David Bowie, and I would love to have seen what they were doing in the studio. I mean, some studio recordings, it's like you have 2 days to go in and record 14 songs in and out, and you're done. And then you hear about these albums where they go in for months with nothing, and they just create and create and create. Those seem pretty interesting to me, to see how they came up with all those ideas and all the failed experiments and things that didn't work out and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I always feel bad when people bring up David Bowie because, and I'm not just going to make this about me, I want to ask you guys this, but he's been the artist I'm the most insecure that I haven't just fucking sat down and just gone into his stuff, Because there's so many songs that I do like, and I find out that it was him. And I don't know why. Just take an afternoon, just walk around the city or something and just listen to his shit. But do you guys have artists that you're like, yeah, for some reason I haven't found the motivation to go down their rabbit hole?
Tons. And I'm guilty. I feel guilty about it. A lot of artists, I was told for 10, 15, 20 years, you got to get into this guy. You got to get into this guy. And I would try, and it just would not work for me. And then some of them, it clicked. I got the right album, or it was the right time of day, or whatever. And I'm like, I get it. I see the light. I know why this guy is a genius now. I didn't get it for 12 years, 15 years, 18 years, and then it worked. Some people I still don't like. That it's like a critic's darling that I still don't like. I don't get it.
Are you going to play it safe and not name any of these people?
Yes.
Damn it. I was going to say Prince, too. Prince, for me, I'll just take the bullet. Prince is someone that, again, I've seen so many of his performances, amazing performer, so many good songs, but so many more bad songs, and I'll just say that.
Well, I would say both of those artists have really long careers and a lot of different albums that all sound different, so that's understandable.
Yeah.
And so I would say pick one really badass album. Like I would say for Prince, get the album with Sexy Motherfucker on it. That's the symbol one. Just get that with Michael Bland on drums. That is a insanely good record. And just listen to that one only. And don't pay attention to anything else. Maybe David Bowie, I would say get Scary Monsters. And just listen to that album alone. And don't worry about his early stuff and his later stuff. And then you just check out one album for a while, for a week or two. And then see if it speaks to you.
I like that. Maybe it was a Zane interview or someone was talking about Bob Dylan. And they were talking about how real artists, you look at their albums throughout time, it's like number 14, number one, didn't even chart, number one, didn't even chart. Like, it's just, they're trying shit. That's good. It's when you just have number one, it's like, oh, they found the formula and they're just doing it. Or maybe they were lucky. But very rarely is it just boom, 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 if every single time you're remaining true to your art,
Yeah, and some artists get tired of their own music. They want to change it up. They're like, this works. I got a Grammy for this album, but I'm tired of this. So I'm going to do something different, even if it's less popular. And I really respect that when an artist is willing to make a hard left turn or hard right turn, even when things are going well, just because they don't want to repeat themselves over and over again. I think that's cool.
Yeah, it's ballsy. Brendan, did you happen to see the Bowie exhibit at BAM in Brooklyn?
No. Tell me about it.
It was a retrospective of his life. I want to say it was maybe 2018, 2019. They just had a whole wing of I think it was at the Brooklyn Museum, and they give you like headphones. And so as you're walking around, there was everything from like clothes he wore to like videos showing like performances like on SNL, but it was very interactive experience. So like as you walk through it, you'd hear kind of a voiceover about things. And it was just, I'm a fan, but like I'm kind of between you and Ben in terms of like how much I know about Bowie. And I just walked away from there. Like I listened to like his whole discography for the next week, just talking about how he wrote songs. He had this one random, almost looked like like the first computer, but he had like some kind of generator. You'd put a bunch of words in there and it would generate like song lyrics. But like you mentioning him, like taking newspaper cuttings out of a hat for lyrics, like he was always finding ways to, in some ways, like it was almost like utilizing a version of AI. He was finding ways to collaborate with technology to create something. So it wasn't just him thinking of, he wanted to react to technology to write the lyrics to a whole record. It was one of those things I was like, this should always be here. Like it was so incredible. Like it's the kind of thing I would go to just like once a year if I could. It just was really special.
I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with there being tons of artists out there that are highly regarded and you're just not into it. Music is subjective. We all have taste. We all grew up listening to certain bands and got turned on to other things. I think it's okay if there's a famous artist out there that you just don't gel with. If Bowie's that person, cool. I think I got a greatest hits in high school, and then it just started from that, and more albums, the earlier stuff, the middle era, the recent era. I really dig him, and I really dig almost everything he does. Oh my God, wait, there's another album called Earthling. That was kind of his electronica, so almost drum and bass electronica record that he did. Right after going on tour, he did a co-headlining tour with Nine Inch Nails, and then he got off tour and did this album called Earthling with Zachary Alford on drums. Mm-hmm. It is amazing.
Is Afraid of Americans, is that on that record?
Yes, okay. Yes. That album is super impressive. I remember my roommate and I at the time, we listened to that nonstop. This was back in the 90s where you would get one CD and listen to it for a month straight.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Like just same CD over and over again, like, whoa.
Do you guys think it's better to deep dive into a select few records or listen to a lot of records to kind of cast a wide net for potential influences?
Well, I would say deep dive. Less influence and a deeper understanding of what's happening. I think that's better. The things that really stick, that made a foundation for me, are things that I did a deep dive on. I went through a massive Steve Jordan phase, deep on him. And then I had obviously a massive John Bonham phase, a massive Steve Gadd phase, and these things. And I almost can't get rid of those influences now because I listen to so much of them. And I actually did a massive Matt Chamberlain deep dive for a while. I was really into everything he did. It was so. And then there's a lot of things I check out. Someone tells me to check out this cool Senegalese record. I'm like, cool, I'll check it out. But I don't do a deep dive. I just listen to it for a week, and I'm like, this is amazing. I think I know where beat one is, and we're good. I don't know. What do you think, Gunnar?
The more options I have, I feel limited by in a weird way. Like I miss that thing of like having like, I went to Tower Records and I splurged and I bought 4 CDs. And I know like that's what I'm listening to for the next 2 or 3 months. If they're good, hopefully they're good. And when they're good, yeah, it's just, you get it to such a world with them. I was telling Ben the other night on the way to the show, like I've been learning music for a performance I'm doing next week. So most of them, I haven't really been listening to a lot of music other than music I had to learn recently. So I just end up like listening to podcasts when I take a break from listening to music. Like if I'm really like learning a whole record or show, I tend to not listen to too much other music, I find. Once I've learned it, say once I'm on tour, then I'm listening to more music on my days off, or like you go the walk to the coffee shop. But I generally like to find a record I really like and spend at least a week at a time with it. I've never really gotten into like the spot. Like I have Spotify and Apple Music for dumb reasons, but I've never really gotten into like oh, it's Friday. Like, what is this algorithm going to tell me to listen to? I really just I find stuff I like, and I tend to not really want to be told by, my phone what I should listen to. So in some ways, I feel like I'm missing out on a lot of new music. Like I have a lot of friends that are really keyed into that world of like new stuff that's coming out, and they're getting suggested stuff that the algorithm thinks that they'll like, and that could be cool. I still just I like kind of stumbling onto things. I like stumbling onto a new band, maybe like someone's talking about. I read an interview, I see it on Instagram. I'm a little more old school like that. Like I just want someone to tell me something that they're digging, and then I get into it.
Can you think of an album in the last 2 years that you really loved? Like you got into the whole album and you listened to it repetitively?
A couple years ago, Puscifer played a festival in Norway, and my buddy texted me. He's like, dude, this band just started. You got to come see them. And they're a punk band from Norway called Honningbarna. And I stood side stage, and they kind of remind me like Refused meets Turnstile meets early aughts hardcore, like screamy vocals, but also having like kind of Nine Inch Nails synth parts. And they just blew me away. And I got their record that day, and then they just released a new record the last 2 months, and it's the last record like I listened to every day for at least a month. I was craving it. I was like, oh, I'm going to go on a walk. Like that's definitely what I'm listening to. I'm going on a drive. That's, I've told a few friends about it. Like a few friends have gotten into it. It's all Norwegian folk. Like I have no idea what the fuck he's singing, but he's singing like he's a punk band. So it's like he's singing with such intensity. You can feel the emotion. I'm not exactly sure what the fuck he's saying, but like the drummer's great. The production's great. Production's very forward thinking. And like I grew up playing punk rock, so like there's always a part of me that like just loves a good fucking halftime drop, so that was the last thing I got really into. And it also kind of felt special because like I discovered them like at this magical like festival I played, and I was like half awake for, and like so I like having that feeling that like it feels a little special to me, so there is a little of that built in, which I like.
Well, it's funny you should say that because Ben was talking earlier about your formative years of falling in love with bands. And yet back then when you're 14 years old, 15, 16, the bands are like your bands. Like I'm listening to this because this is my band. Yes. I discovered this, or it's part of your identity almost. Me and my buddies like this band, not that one. And maybe because you discovered it in a certain setting, that'll always remind you of that.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great point.
How about you, Ben? Any records that, not recently, but in the last 2 years where you're like, I love listening to this album?
Yeah, well, the first one that came to my mind was Duty Now for the Future, the Devo record. It's the one that came out right before Freedom of Choice that has Girl You Want and Whip It and whatnot. But this one was just, Alan's playing is so robotic, and it's almost like proggy, but it's new wave prog, and he does these weird... Like some of his song, he tried to be a drum machine, so it was like lack of dynamics, like do 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 on those two toms. And the song Blockhead, I was just obsessed with that song. Yeah. The Wiggly World and all those weird songs. But yeah, I had my Devo stage. Maybe I was reading a Fred Armisen interview or something, and I was like, that's a band that I really need to go down. And Alan Myers is an amazing drummer. Gone too soon.
Alan Myers. Have we talked about my Alan Myers story?
No, please tell me.
Okay, so when I first moved to LA, I bought a house in Silver Lake, and this is an old house from like 1921, and there's no outlets or electrical lights anywhere. You go into the backyard, it's pitch black, like you're about to be mugged.
I'm very curious where this is going.
So I asked a friend of mine, this musician I know who is also a contractor, I said, hey man, I need to get some electrical work done to this house. I mean, we need some outlets. There's no place to plug anything in, and there's no lights outside. He's like, yeah, I'll send over my friend. And then I went on the road. So I told my wife, this guy's coming over named Alan, and he's going to look at the house.
Jesus.
So this guy comes over, he's looking around, and he's like, okay, well, we can add a fixture right here. We can do this, we can do that. And she's like, there's also, we need a light in the basement. The basement's also dark. He goes down there. He sees my 68 red Sparkle Ludwig kit just sitting there. And he goes, oh, Ludwig, I used to have one of those. And she's like, oh, you play drums? He goes, yeah, I used to be in a band called DeVoe. And she's like, oh, okay. He does an estimate. He's like, I'll be back on Tuesday to do all the work. Cool. He leaves. And I said, how did it go with that electrician? She goes, great. He was a drummer too. I'm like, oh, really? It's like, did he say who he played with? He goes, he said he played with a band called DeVoe. I'm like, you mean Devo? I'm like, do you mean Alan Myers is our electrician? I go, hold on a second. So then I came home from the road and I made sure I was there for when he came back. So he came back and I'm like, hi, nice to meet you. Alan. Yeah, he's like, yeah. So then, and he was the nicest. He was an electrician on the side, and he was the nicest guy. And I, of course, I took a little while before I bombarded him with all these Devo questions.
So we'll finish the outlet, then we'll talk.
Yeah, and he was so nice, and oh my God, and he became a really good friend until he passed away from brain cancer. But he was an awesome human being, and I was so lucky to get to know him for a couple years, and a fantastic electrician.
That's amazing.
He told me like, I'm like, why DeVoe? He goes, well, that was actually the original pronunciation of the band before and then everyone just started calling it Devo.
Oh, because devolution, evolution. Yeah, Devo. Yeah. I guess, it would be called Devo.
And he also told me about like all that mechanical stuff. He's like, yeah, I mean, in the beginning they were an art punk band. And then each album got a little more new wavy, a little more drum machiney, and he had to play more like a machine to the point where he's like, I don't want to be a machine anymore, so I'm leaving. So I think he left around 1985 because it was just getting more and more that way in every record.
He was being utilized less and less in the records, you could tell.
Yeah, but you see those early recordings like them on SNL or something, and he's killing it. I asked him about the beat on Can't Get No Satisfaction. I'm like, that's my favorite beat in the world. How did you come up with that? And he's like, well, we're doing a weird cover of I Can't Get No Satisfaction. We're in the rehearsal studio. I don't know what to play because the hit is so omnipresent, So I just went for a walk, and then I started listening to a Bartók concerto for percussion and orchestra. And I'm thinking, what if I played this more like a percussionist in an orchestra? And I came back from my walk to the rehearsal studio. I sat down, and that's the beat I played. And I'm like, that's incredible. It's
That's
so
a
backwards.
great fucking story.
Well, Gunnar, you have a story pertaining to that beat too.
Oh yeah, I told Ben when I got the Puscifer gig, it was like a week or two rehearsing with the band before I met Maynard, and I just like, he's a presence, and I was just I was like, what's he like? I was just nervous, but like I knew I was be very prepared by the time I met him. So I was like, either he's gonna like me or not, but like he won't be able to say like I'm not trying my hardest or playing the right parts. And like he walked in and didn't really say much, and he just looks at me, he goes, Devo, Satisfaction. And I just go do, 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 do. And he goes, okay, and he just walked away.
That was your trial by fire.
Yeah. And his son is named Devo, which is even more interesting now that we're talking about how the name was said at the beginning. That's kind of blowing my mind too.
Devo Cannon's a sick name.
We were on tour in Mexico recently, and we were crossing paths with Tool in every city. Like we were arriving, they were leaving, and things like that. And I know that Maynard trains Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu everywhere he goes. So I was trying to hook up with him and his tour manager and his security guard. I'm like, I want to train with you guys. Because I do that too.
Yeah.
Not at his, I don't have my own, like, he has his own trainer that comes out, and Matt's on tour.
Yeah.
So someday I'm going to come to one of your shows, and I'm going to try to train with Maynard at the same time.
I could probably make that happen because there's a few things he cares about maybe a little bit more than music. And I would say his winery and jiu-jitsu are probably amongst those two. I mean, it's very important to him. He does it religiously. That's going to happen. I'm going to say that.
Oh, cool.
For sure.
Thank you. If you make that happen, that'd be great. Well, didn't you tell me, was it your first gig with them that you showed up like an hour before the set? Or was that just a gig? There was some story you told me.
The gig I got was I got the gig during COVID. So like during the pandemic. And so they flew me out to film this live stream of their new record, which incidentally, I'm out in LA right now because we're doing a similar thing. We're learning a new record and we're going to play it live on Monday and film it. It was a similar circumstance. They just finished a record, then they had a whole band learn it, and then they were going to go film it in the desert. And the idea was like, we're going to start at 5 a.m. with this one song, and the sun we'll play a couple songs in the dark, but the idea was there's one song where they knew they wanted to get the sun rising in the desert behind us. For a thing like that, you're probably playing every song 2 or 3 times because they want to get a bunch of coverage. And then, of course, it comes out and none of the fills match what you played because, like, some director's like, that's the shot. I'm like, I'm clearly not even, like, you're playing on the 1, but it's on the 2 and 4. It's just maddening. But call time was 4:45 or something like that. I was staying off-site 40 minutes away. And the day before it said call time 5:15 or something like that. Like at some point it got moved up half an hour without really being relayed to me. So like I woke up, checked my phone, and like, holy shit. It's one thing to be late, but when you're late and you have to drive 40 minutes,
and
like
record a live album.
So I was like driving 40 minutes, like pitch dark through the desert to this really random, like off-site location called Arcosanti. And yeah, getting there, everyone's set up. Like Jeremy Berman was my tech. That's kind of how we became close. So like he could set up the drums, and like luckily I just sat down and I didn't have to touch anything. I didn't really have a choice either. And it's like, oh yeah, and we're all wearing sunglasses. So it's like I sit down, I'm like ready, and they're like, your sunglasses. I'm like, oh fuck, like, and then it's like, all right, the click track 5, 6, 7, it's just like, here we fucking go.
All right, that is the end of part 1, and we ended up talking for about 2.5 hours. And so I decided to make this into multiple episodes, and I forgot to say that in the intro. I hope you enjoy next week as well. It's just more of this. So now I'm going to do the really reverby outro blurb. All right, bye. And that's the show. If you're listening on a platform that allows ratings and reviews, do that. It helps more people find the show, so it'll get bigger and better, and hopefully I'll have a chance to sell out one day. But you'll be an OG listener that can brag to all your friends. Anyways, why don't you go and check us out at bigfatsnaredrum.com and follow us on all the socials. Just search for Big Fat Snare Drum and you will find us. The show is edited in part using iZotope RX Audio Editor. It's amazing, so go check that out at iZotope.com. And thanks again to Gunnar Olsen for the theme music. Bye!